There are a lot of AP automation software on the market, and on the surface of it, they all look the same. They all do invoice capture, route the invoice for approval, and then sending the invoice to your accounting system. And because you can't make all the differences till the time you implement the system, select one and figure out all how it really works, it could be really daunting to figure out which is the right solution for you. Now, I have helped hundreds of growing companies implement AP automation software. So in this video, I'm going to break down 6 best AP automation software and which one is best for you given your specific situation. So let's get into it. So the first solution I'm going to cover is ProcureDesk. ProcureDesk is a platform that I've built for growing companies between, let's say, 100 to 1,000 employees who are looking to streamline their procurement process. Now, some of the key features of AP automations is capturing the invoice, approval routing, making sure it goes through the right person, GL coding, and things like that, and then sending the invoice to accounting system. And ProcureDesk does all that very well. The main difference between ProcureDesk and other AP automation software is ProcureDesk is designed to handle both purchasing and AP in a single system versus having multiple systems one for purchasing, one for cards, one for AP automation. So the reason why ProcureDesk is designed this way is, in our experience, we see if you do not have purchasing upfront, you have a lot of problems towards the end when you're processing invoice. So let me explain. So if you do not have a purchasing process, your purchasing is happening over email, Slack messages, text messages, phone call, and so on. So when AP gets an invoice, they have no background on what is this for, where this needs to be coded, who needs to review and approve it. So they spend a lot of time trying to figure all that out. So an invoice that should have taken like 2 minutes to get it reviewed and approved, take 30 minutes. And you're chasing people for, hey, did you approve this invoice, where it needs to be coded? Or you're probably spending a lot of time reclassification. So we see a lot of controllers actually spending a lot of time towards the month-end process saying, oh, this is wrong, let's reclassify, and so on. Now, ProcureDesk fixed this by setting up a purchasing process. So imagine instead of you receiving an invoice, whenever somebody needs to make a purchase, they go in and create a purchase request so that you can select the right GL code right up front. You can select which cost center it needs to be booked to. It goes through like a review and approval process. So all the budgets and everything is checked. So when the invoice comes in now, it has a purchase order and the system can automatically figure out the coding. It can do the matching and the invoice can be automatically approved. So that's kind of the main difference. Now on the invoice side, ProcureDesk does OCR. So it reads the invoice document and automatically identify all the key elements of the invoice, whether it is the PO number, if it is one available, invoice number, invoice date, even the line items, right? So the description of what is on the invoice line item, taxes, a unit quantity, price, everything, right? So the team is not spending time on entering the data into the system. It automatically pulls that. Now, once the data is in the system, it does match it with the purchase order and the receipt. And that's where the benefit of having everything in single system is. Now everything is in one place and invoice comes in and you can do the matching. Let's take an example. Let's say you purchased a widget for $100 for the unit price and you bought 10 of them, right? So it's $1,000 total. Now the vendor sends you the product. So they send you a good receipt note, which captures what was delivered and you inspect it and see if everything is fine. And then the invoice shows up. Now you can match all these 3 documents together, right? So you say, all right, do we have the same price on what's on the purchase order? What's on the invoice? Okay, it matches. Great. Both are $100. Do we have a confirmation that this quantity was received? Okay, it's on the receipt. So that's kind of the triangular thing. That's the 3-way match, right? So you are relying on a system to perform the match rather than trying to figure out all this manually or sending the invoices for approval, right? So that's kind of the 3-way match. Now, once the match is done, there could be areas where approval is required, whether an invoice shows up without any PO, like utilities or rent and things like that. You're not going to have a purchase order for that, which you still will route it for approval, or maybe you want to set it up in a way that there's no approval required because these are recurring invoices and you have like some sort of policy or delegation of authority in place. Or maybe you are matching a invoice with a purchase order and there's a discrepancy. So for example, price is wrong or maybe the quantity is off and so on. So when you don't have a system and you're trying to do this manually, you have to rely on the tribal knowledge on whom to reach out to. And guess what? If the person who's processing it today leaves, works, then you have to train the new person and the tribal knowledge kind of gets missed, right? So the benefit of having this connected system is now you can just set up rules for routing these invoices based on those exceptions. Oh, there's a price exception. Send it to Sally in procurement. She handles that. Or there is a mismatch between what was received versus what was invoiced. All right, send it to John in warehouse. He managed all that. So you could set up all those rules in the system so it can automatically take care of routing it. So what that means for AP team is rather than entering invoices and waiting for approval, you are only focused on invoices that have discrepancies. So if you're processing 100 invoices and 90 are processed fine, 10 have problem, focus on those. And that is how you reduce the time you spend on, month-end close, because you're not focused on processing each and every invoice. It's automatically done for you. Also, ProcureDesk integrates with all the major accounting systems out there, whether you're using QuickBooks, Sage Intacct, NetSuite, Business Central, Dynamics, all that, or SAP or Oracle for that matter. So the benefit of that integration here is your team does not need to kind of go and enter the data manually. OCR automatically pulls the data in ProcureDesk, so you don't have to do that. And then all the data automatically flows to your accounting system. In our experience, typically we have seen at least 30 to 40% time reduction on the time your team is spending on invoices, which means you can process more with the same headcount. The second thing which we have seen very common with our clients is their month-end process goes down. So recently we worked with a client who was using NetSuite and they were doing everything in NetSuite and they were spending around 10 days to close the month. They started using ProcureDesk. We brought it down to 3 to 4 days. Now, if you're evaluating an AP software right now and you want to see how ProcureDesk can help you, just click on the link below and schedule a time with one of our product specialists and we'll walk you through how ProcureDesk might be able to help you. So let's look at the second use case where you already have your purchasing handled and you don't need PO software and you just focus only on AP, right? So there are two solutions we're going to talk about here. One is Avid Exchange and other is Stampli. Both do the basic AP automation, right? Capturing of the invoice, routing it for approval, and accounting integration and so on. But there are a few differences, right? So Avid Exchange is great for high volume invoice processing, especially with their 200 plus vendor integrations. So it makes it really easy to kind of pick a system that works already with your accounting system. On the other hand, use Stampli for if you have a complex workflow scenarios that needs to be handled, right? So in terms of routing the invoice to multiple stakeholders and so on. It also has a AI built in for creating invoices using OCR and things like that, right? So those are kind of the key differences between these two. The only thing to keep in mind is use these systems only if your purchasing is well handled. If you are still struggling with people just buying, from credit cards, emails, and your spend is not under control, then this is probably not going to solve that problem. These systems are designed for approvals of invoices, which means spend has already happened. You're just approving them. Now, let's talk about other scenario. Let's say you have international payments. So you're doing a lot of international payments and so on. Then you might want to look at Tipalti. Tipalti is, again, an AP focused solution. They do have a little bit of purchasing or requisition management too, but their bread and butter is AP automation. And especially if you are paying international vendors. They integrate with major accounting systems and the pricing starts at around $99 per month. Again, look for specific scenarios, work with them directly. We don't have any affiliation with any of these vendors, so that's the disclaimer. Now, again, if your focus is mostly domestic vendors, then look for the other two solutions that we previously mentioned. Now, let's address the final category, which also handles AP automation and bill pay, and those are what we call the spend management solution. So let's say your purchasing is mostly done on credit cards, or you just don't have a PO process and you need a simple bill pay solution, then the next two vendors in this category works very well. It's Airbase and Ramp. Both Airbase and Ramp have the basic capability to have a requisition process for issuing cards, also the bill pay using cards, right? So you could route your invoices for approval, but also have a lightweight spend management solution on top of it, which is managing the cards and everything else. Now, both these solutions integrate with common accounting systems, whether you're using QuickBooks or NetSuite, you will be able to kind of find easy integration with these. Now, whether these tools are right fit for you or not depends upon your exact scenario, right? So if everything is an invoice approval and you need a combination of cards and a little bit lightweight spend management tool along with cards, these are good solutions. But if you are, let's say, into manufacturing or logistics or construction, your requirements might be very different, right? You are heavy purchase order focused. You have a lot of purchases that are recurring in nature. You need to capture, maybe which project the cost is associated to. You're dealing with spend control and so on. You should look for a complete end-to-end solution that handles purchasing, that handles budget management, that handles project management, along with AP, the bill pay solution. So if that's the problem that you're trying to solve, look for ProcureDesk. ProcureDesk is built for specifically managing the entire process end-to-end, including purchasing, approvals, invoice capture, and so on. So if you want to see how ProcureDesk can help you automate your purchasing in AP, click on the link below to schedule some time with our product specialist. We'll walk you through like a step-by-step process on how you can automate the entire process all the way from purchasing to approvals to invoice matching and bill pay and so on. Again, click on the link below. And if you want to see how to automate AP inside NetSuite, check this video.